Hey everybody, today I'm just going to do a kind of short video. I'm not much editing because I don't do editing usually at all. I'm not sure. Let me check the camera, see if we can brighten this up a little bit because I want to show you these colors that I'm going to be sewing. So this one is my camel houndstooth. I finally have an order for this. I don't even think I ever cut this fabric before, and I've had this for a couple of years now. The second one is the butterscotch plaid. These are all size 1, so they're going to be really quick to sew up. And then third is the army. It's called army. No. This one's called avocado. This one's called avocado because it's the flannel. The army is the merino wool. So I'm going to be sewing these up today. And I'm just gonna get started. It's not necessarily going to be a tutorial video, although you can definitely learn from this. Let's get my machine on. It's already threaded with my natural thread, which are the ivory. It's like the color that I always use for just sewing around the inside of all of the diaper covers and diapers. All right, and I've got my machine kind of at a weird angle. You can't see that, but for me it's kind of a weird angle. And so I'm just going to head in. So I've got my stitch length is 2.5. I've got a straight stitch. I'm starting in the corner of the diaper cover. Let me check the camera, just make sure that you can see that okay. And I'm starting about 1/2 inch, I would say, from the edge, so 1/2 inch stitch, what's it called? I can't think of the word because I just want to get sewing. So yes, we will go there and then turn it, and then I go around. Now, around the elastic, I usually do it a lot closer to the edge. So I have here my clear elastic, and I use clear so that you don't get like urine soaking into your elastic. If you have anything that's like cotton, it's going to soak in and then make the diaper cover smell bad way sooner than it should. So then I switched it to a zigzag stitch. Then I'm just going to sew right over the elastic. I'm sorry if I don't, if my voice isn't heard above the sewing machine very well. I don't have my little microphone on today. I just literally just now decided to just sew these up on camera, so hopefully that works okay. So then I go until the, where's my little doohickey scissors? I go until the pattern starts to curve out to the hip area, and then I'm going to lift my needle and switch back to straight stitch and straight stitch along that corner. Now my pattern here, let's see, I got a little bit of stretching into the with the bottom fabric, which is just a undyed, what's it called, flannel. Okay, so I go to the corner and then lift and then turn it. Make sure I've got both fabrics. They do stretch a little bit when you're sewing them, so I just sew only a little bit, like maybe 1 inch, and then I lift my needle up and switch to a zigzag stitch and grab my elastic. So I'll talk my way through this one, and then the second one I will just kind of speed through. Oh, and I stretch the elastic as I'm sewing and just sew right over it. Just make sure you're lining things up underneath so that you're catching both of your layers. Oh, I kind of went a little bit further than I should in a back stitch, and then sew straight stitch over that little bit of elastic that I went too far. I was just thinking about tucking, really. So there, turn it, and then sew along the top. This is the hip part until it starts to curve in, and I just compare it so that I make sure that they're the same length. Just a couple more stitches, and then I have to do the elastic on this leg. So where it curves in, there's elastic, and then there's a little bit of elastic in the front, and like almost the entire back is elastic. For my diapers, I don't know, the way that you do your diapers might be different, or the way you want to do them. You know, you can put as much elastic in pretty much as you want. The only thing with the way that my style of doing the diapers is that I sew like wrong sides together and then flip them. So I leave a little area, a little hole, and you'll see that soon. And then I turn them right sides out. So yeah, and this top fabric is a lot more stretchy, it seems, than the bottom, which is just a solid color. So I really have to make sure I'm getting both layers here. But you'll see how I leave a little opening. I'm switching back to a straight stitch, and I'll go around. Now it's really tight on the bottom, as far as like the top fabric stretched quite a bit. There we go. Turn. And then here I sew about, usually it's about 3 inches, but I think with the size 1 it's a little less. It's more like 2.5 maybe or so. And then I do some elastic here in the front and leave an opening, which you're gonna see coming right up. So I stretch it. So first I tack it, like go back and forth a little bit, and then I stretch it and sewing right over the elastic with a zigzag stitch. And then I just make sure that I stop the elastic at the same place where I started, so it's about here. I'll just mark it like with my finger, and then stitch to there, and then back stitch. And that's it for the inside. So basically the inner, the diaper is sewn together on the inside, and then I flip it and do top stitching. So this is what I do. I cut off the corners, so my stitches are here and here, and I cut off the corners. Make sure you don't cut through your stitches. And I also will sometimes trim it down a little bit so that it's not so bulky, like here, maybe here. I don't want a lot of bulk like on the edges. Let's see, this one looks good. I'll do this top bit here, do my corner, and then this corner, and that one looks pretty good. So now let me get rid of my little snippets of fabric. And so that's the back, the back waist, okay? These are the back like hip parts that you're gonna have your snap studs onto. This is the front, well, it's going to be. So that's the little bit of front elastic and the wings here, the front wings. And so when I stopped stitching was right here where I ended this elastic, but I started sewing right here. So that leaves a little opening right here that you can reach down into and grab. What I do is I put my thumb usually in it, and I all the way to the other end of the diaper. In this case it's the back of the diaper cover, and I just sort of like poke my finger through that corner and pull it up through that little tiny opening in the front that I leave. So that's just the most important thing with this method of sewing diaper covers, is that you have to leave a little opening somewhere. So that means that you can't have elastic all the way around the entire thing, because you have to have an opening somewhere. Otherwise, you can do it a different way of sewing it with the right sides out. But that means you have to have some way to finish your edges, like a serger, or using some kind of, again, it's like tough because you want everything to be wool. So, or either wool or something that's not going to absorb moisture. So they don't really make any like wool seam like tape, or what's that called? I don't ever sew with it, so I can't even think of the term. I have a lot of it, but I don't actually sew with it. So anyway, they do have also like elastic, the same stuff, like stuff that goes, you can sew over the edges of the diaper. That's elastic, which that can work too. So anyway, we're going through around and getting just like every corner. I'm just poking out every corner, getting it ready for top stitching. So that's the back, and these are the legs, and then the front. And what I always do on the wool flannel, which this is wool flannel, all three of these diaper covers are wool flannel. It's a little bit thicker, so I leave the leg elastic and the waist elastic untop stitched, and that makes sure that they stay stretchy and real gentle on the baby's legs and waist. So I'll only basically I top stitch all the places where I straight stitched, so all of the corners. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my corner where the elastic ends and put it right under, and I'm sewing right along the edge, top stitching, and I put my stitch length on 4. I've got my machine on straight stitch, and I just have my my other settings here, so I don't know, your machine's going to be different, but I have it in like a regular whatever is like a normal setting for like the presser foot, and then for my width of my zigzag stitch, I just have it on a 3. It's not super critical. You just don't want too small of a zigzag, and you obviously don't want to have like too close of a stitch with a zigzag, because you're sewing over this elastic that can actually, if there's too many holes in it, it can actually tear. So you don't want that to happen. So I always just do like kind of an average stitch. So I start by back stitching a little bit, and then go to the corner, lift my foot and turn the corner, and then just straight stitch until the elastic starts, and back stitch. So that's what I'm going to do all the way around the diaper cover. And again, I just smooth out everything so that I get a nice, it's not bulky, and I'm not like enclosing the stitch like too far back, if that makes any sense. Because you want to maintain that shape of the diaper cover. And you may have to, like I was doing just now, I'll show you again, when you start and stop your stitches and go around corners and stuff, you may have to kind of ease it a little bit, like push it through, because the feed dogs don't always grab a hold of, when you've got thick fabric, it's like harder, I guess, for it to get the seam started. So you might have to finesse it a little bit, push it through, and you can figure that out with your machine, like however your machine functions along those lines. I can tell you they work better when they're clean. If you have dirty feed dogs underneath, these are the feed dogs, by the way, these little things that rise and fall like as the machine works, they're pushing the fabric through, these little things. And if they get like dirt and dust and a lot of like fibers from your fabrics underneath them, they don't work very well. So you want to make sure that you keep those clean. And I do have another video on cleaning sewing machines, but basically you have, oh, which I didn't put back in here. I just cleaned them, and I didn't put my screws back in. But the screws, yeah, they're right here. So the screws just kind of like, they usually are very short screws and they unscrew very easily. I do have my little tiny, if I can get this started here, that's what I want. I do have a little tiny screwdriver thing that comes with the machine, and your machine, if it's a brand new machine, it will come with these. If you're lucky and you have a used machine, if you're lucky, it will have one of these in there. Otherwise, you could take like a penny or some other change, even a quarter would work, and you can screw and unscrew these probably with some kind of a coin. I do like to leave them kind of loose so that I can clean easily and not, you know, and not have a struggle with having to get those unfastened, because if they're too tight, oh, it's just awful. I just hate that. Okay, so over here, this corner, I'm gonna start again, back stitching, go to the corner, leave my needle down. That's one trick that I do so that the threads don't get tangled underneath. I always, when I'm turning a corner, I always leave. Now, see right there, I had to do that. I basically take my finger on the edge of the fabric and just push it as I'm starting to sew. And then it helps to get it going through there. And sometimes you may have to do that. Some people like to, let me see, how did I need to go down a little further. And then I'll back stitch. Okay. Some people like to use some kind of a, there's a bigger screwdriver you could use, or like something like this, you know, so that their finger isn't so close. However, for me, I just really like just using my fingers. I don't like having to grab another tool. Just takes more time. So at this point, everything is top stitched that I want top stitched. And then I just go through and I cut off all of the little threads and put my tags on, and then it's ready for snaps. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the other diaper cover going, and I'll probably just put it on fast speed so that I can speed through it, and this video won't be like so long, because normally I plan for like half an hour per diaper cover as far as like time, including snaps. And so this is 3 diaper covers, and so that video would be an hour and a half long, but I really don't want to have such a long video, so I'm just going to do that. Okay. finally over at my snap breast. I've got the 3 size 1. This again is the camel herringbone, and this one is the butterscotch plaid, that's what that's called, and this one is avocado, and these are all 100% wool flannel, so they don't really have stretch to them except for the areas with elastic. So there's elastic in the legs and elastic in the waist, a little bit in the front waist and quite a bit more in the back waist. So I'm going to be doing snaps. So I have, this is from Cam Snaps, number A18 is the color. I'm going to use that on the camel herringbone, and on the avocado I'm going to use the matte B42. They don't match, but I think that they look good, and they're like the only matte snaps I've tried, and I kind of like them. And then for the butterscotch, I'm going to be using D307. Again, camsnaps.com. I don't get any affiliate or anything. I'm just saying that's the best place to buy these poly resin snaps. And they also have, like, this is a old kind of like really heavy duty snap press that I got in the early 2000s. They have a smaller version now. It's a little bit less, I think it's probably a little bit less bulky, although I haven't actually seen it in person. They also have a handheld snap press for like home use, so if you're not going to be putting a lot of snaps on, like if you're not having a business, then you may want to get that one, and I think that one's maybe $20 or so. So I am going to get started. I'm gonna probably just run through the snap application once, just to show like the positioning on the size 1, because I do do it slightly differently for the size 1, and then I'm gonna just speed through the rest of them. Okay, I'm going to start by putting the stud into the snap press. This the stud has more of like a open shape, where the socket, these are the 2 dies that I use, plus the die that holds the cap as well. The socket is going to have like a little thing in the middle that pushes everything down. So like when you put a socket in, the socket is more shaped like a bowl, and that goes in top up and just snaps right in there. But I'm going to start, I always start with the stud, and I just feel at the bottom there's an opening, and I push that up, and then there's a screw on this side. Just tighten the screw. This video really is not an ad for these snaps. I like them. These are the best snaps I've used over 25 years plus of making diapers. So I'm just getting all of the studs out in the right colors, because I do all my studs first, like I said. So I'm just getting this all ready. And I do have like big frosting containers actually full of the ivory snaps in each piece, because that's generally the color that I use. But when I can't have matching colors, then I do it. So this one for the butterscotch, I really love that color. That's so cute. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the camel houndstooth, and I'm just gonna open this little bag of studs and take one out and put it right up inside that die if I can. There we go. My hands are starting to dry out for winter, so nothing is really, it's just everything sliding around, and it makes it difficult to do things with my hands. So I'm going to get out a total of 4 of these studs ahead of time, and then I'm going to take my diaper cover, and this is the back. I can tell it's the back because it's got I put my tags on, and also more elastic in the back. Then what I do is I take a cap. I'm going to get 4 caps out of here. Okay, so I take a cap, and then put that in the top corner of the back. And then I just take my fingernails and I push until it goes through. You probably can't see that because it's such a light color, but it's through both layers of fabric. And then I set it on the little die for the cap and hold it in place, and then I give it a good press. I usually do about 2 presses, like in one. So then the second stud I'm loading up, and here I've got my measurements on here from my map. And so what I do is I usually, with the newborn size or the size 1, I go a little bit less than 3 inches. I make sure that both snaps are within the 3 inches top to bottom, and then I compare it, and yes, that will work. So that's kind of my way of doing things. I kind of do about, let's check it again. So from the top where I have to measure the top of the snap to the size 3, so that's about 2.5 inches. Not size 3, 3 inches. That's 2.5 inches for the size 1, and I'm perfectly happy with that because I know it's going to work for the other side as well. So that's one reason why I don't pre-measure anything or mark anything on my diaper covers, is because like things may shift around and I have to alter things along the way. So I just do it according to approximate inches and stuff. Okay, I need one more cap for this. And so again, I'll just measure at 2.5 because that was where the other one was. So I'm just putting my thumb where that was. And then I'm gonna make sure that the top of the cap is where my thumb was. And make sure the cap is completely on the fabric. You don't want anything poking, you know, or sticking off the edge of the fabric. So that's 2 sets of the studs installed on this diaper cover. So now I'll just switch over. I'll do all the studs. Now I need these colors. It does make it a little bit more time consuming to switch colors, but no big deal. I will do that because it does look cuter, I think. If I can do it, I do it. Like I said, you may get a diaper cover that has just ivory snaps, and that probably is because I've run out of a color, or I just don't have a color to match the fabric. So there's my sockets, and I gotta get 4 of these matching caps. So did I load it already? Yes, I did. Okay. So then I'm going to take a cap, put it in the corner again, and just poke that cap through. And you may be able to see that one a little bit more clearly. It's a little bit darker color. That one's loaded, so we'll just rest that there. And it has a little lip, at least this one does, so that it holds on to, I'll load this again. I always want to make sure that I load it first so that I don't squish the cap with no stud in there. And then again, I'm gonna measure 2.5 inches and then place my cap through both layers of fabric and rest it. Alright. This does get to be an arm workout when you have a lot of diapers to put snaps on. And so some people do rig it up to have like a foot pedal, which I may or may not do at some point, but I also want to paint my snap press, and I have had the paint for probably 2 years and just don't have the time to do it. So maybe at some point when orders are slow, I'll take my snap press apart and show everybody how you can customize your snap press. Okay, so that one's there. Now this is the last one for studs, and then I'll show you the sockets and how I do those for size 1. Size 1 takes less fabric, but I do 1 extra set of snaps on it because some newborns are really, really tiny, and I want to make sure that I can, you know, provide a product that has a good fit for as many sizes as I can. Okay, so we'll load up these. I don't know what the color's called, but I'm gonna call it butterscotch. So get my corner snap. It's always easy when you have a good starting place for the first few snaps so that you don't have to like guess about anything. You can just start in with a snap application. It gets to be sort of mindless, so you do have to be aware that you're putting them in the right position on the right side. There are times when I've just grabbed a diaper cover and started with a corner, and I realized, oh no, I had the front of the diaper cover and not the back, and then that becomes a problem because I have to take the snaps out, and that's time consuming. Because they actually sell a die for taking snaps out, but I don't have it, so I have a little method of cutting it out without damaging the fabric, which is really important. So, okay, so that's my snaps on that butterscotch plaid. I think that's super cute. And I'm just gonna go ahead and work with this color, and I will change out my dye, put it back with my ivory. I just keep it in the thing with the ivory snaps, or the ivory studs. So I'm gonna grab my socket now and install that. Turn that screw, and then I'm gonna I just dump out a whole bunch of these on the table, and I'm just gonna load that first one up. I'll also dump out a bunch of caps. And some people ask, what's the best way to store these? Well, for me, I just have a little metal drawer thing that I just keep them all in their packages. I keep the studs and the sockets in with the caps, so everything is for matching colors is together, and then I keep them in like the order of what type of color it is. Like all of the pinks are together, all of the browns are together, stuff like that. And then I just keep the ivory ones actually on my sewing table because I use them so often. So that's a good spot for them for me. But, you know, some people like to organize their snaps in a different way. So whatever works for you. So that's where I put my first snap, and I'm going to do it on the other side too. So that's the waist snaps are going to go across the top here where I did just the top stitching. So without the elastic. Okay, sometimes the last one ends up in the right on the edge of the elastic. So then the next snap is the hip snap, and for that I actually measure it up with the hip where I put the hip stud, so that I know that they're going to match up when they're together. So what I'll do is I'll load my die, and then I've got this marked here with my fingers, and I go in and put the cap where it needs to be so that it will match up, and then give it a good press into the snap press. Now let's just check it out here. I like to do this on each diaper cover just to make sure we're lining up and everything looks good there. So that's, and you see like these snaps have a really good hold most of the time, so I don't ever really have problems. There might be some odd issue, Okay, see, I'm just mindlessly going on, and I put the next snap a little bit less than an inch, I would say. I will just measure it. So it's only like half an inch from the of space in between the snaps, like the edges of the snaps. But it's about an inch including the snaps. But with fabric that doesn't stretch, I do like to put them a little bit closer together so that you can get a good size, you know, because it doesn't stretch. So, okay, next one. So once you get going, like I said, it just sort of, you become like a machine and just do it one after the other. And pretty soon your arm is tired, but you're done. And it might be worthwhile at some point. I just sort of feel like, because I've been doing it this way for so many years, that if I had a foot pedal, I feel like I wouldn't trust it. So on these ones, the hip snap, so this is a hip, I'm gonna drop it down a little bit just to make sure that we don't get any like weird openness or anything like that, bubbling or anything when it's closed. But I put it right next to the other one. And it may not be a very good color to really see clearly on the camera, but put it right next to that one. And on this side you can kind of see a little bit better. I'll show you when they're all done on one side. That way you get the idea. It's just kind of going downhill a little bit. Probably a little too much, but I think it'll still work. And this basically allows you to tighten up the leg area. So the top ones are to tighten the waist. The hip snaps are to tighten the leg. And with newborns, they do get really tiny legs because they're usually not born with a lot of fat. So their legs are really skinny. So that's why I do 4, because some newborns are just really, really tiny. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of these on, and then I'm gonna speed through the application for the next ones, and I'll show you what they all look like when I come back. This is the last snap on this order. And I've got to print out my shipping label and get it in the mail. So this is one of 3 orders I'm actually doing today, and it's going to be a long day, I can tell you that much. So that's the snaps, that's the other side. So here I'm going to close them up on the smallest setting. This is just so cute. I have to show you how adorable these tiny little size 1 turn out. So the front and the back. It's almost like the tag is almost too big for this diaper cover. It's so little. I have very small hands, and I mean, it just like fits in my hand. It's just so cute. So I'll snap up these as well for you. You can see probably pretty easily the setup on this, because it's a little bit lighter than the wool with the snaps, and so I always just snap them up and stretch out the leg area a little bit so that they look nice. And that's what I do. And then the last one, which I think is absolutely so cute. You can't see the snaps really on the front probably, but I think it's just adorable. I love this butterscotch color, and I have plenty of this fabric. In fact, if people don't order the diaper covers, I'm probably going to make a skirt out of this fabric. So either get your diaper covers or I'm making a skirt. And who knows, maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I won't. It's hard to say. If I make something and I like it, I just keep it. I've already made myself one wool skirt, so I was kind of testing a pattern. That's so adorable. So yeah, these are going to be going out in the mail today to a very happy customer. And thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I don't know if you can see me, but I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, please like it. And if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please do. As you can see, I have like chickens. So sometimes I do chicken videos. I do sewing. Sometimes I do sourdough videos. And I'm also renovating a 1930s cottage that we're living in currently. So this sewing room is in the 1930s cottage, and we have a lot of fun with that. So hopefully this winter we're going to get the kitchen done, and then I'll be able to do my sourdough videos in a new kitchen. But thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.